Let's come to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday, August 8, 2016 Commission meeting. Under regular business, review of minutes from the July 25th, 2016 meeting. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, review of memorandum of warrants for a period of July 21, 2016 through August 3rd, 2016. Ms. McDuffie.
Yes, Chairman. The amount of memorandum of warrants for the period stated is $1,263,026.62.
Thank you. Any questions? Under new business, the Wetumpka Chamber of Commerce, Central Alabama Paranormal Investigators, Courthouse Use and Haunted Tour. Mr. Purcell?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the Commission. I'm Jerry Purcell. I'm the new Executive Director for the Wetumpka Area Chamber of Commerce. It's a privilege to be here. I have a little bit of an unusual request tonight. One of our missions at the Chamber, of course, is to find ways to help our businesses to sell more, attract more customers, bring more people in, and we're particularly focused on all of our members. We have 375 members, but we're also focused heavily on the downtown area. One of the ideas that's been floating around for a few years is the idea of having a haunted ghost tour or ghost walk, similar to a Savannah or a Charleston. They have one that goes on all the time. Some of you may have even have taken advantage of that in your travels. We thought that might be a creative idea as a way to bring some attention to our town and have our merchants get involved and stay open those nights and those kinds of things. And we thought we would have 100 or so people that would come. And then we're talking about the dates that are near Halloween. And those dates are the 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th from roughly 7 to 9 p.m. So we put a message, early message out on Facebook. And we have, you got to understand, we have 2,100 followers on Facebook. In a 7-day period, we have had 40,000 views, over 400 shares, and we picked up an extra couple of hundred members to follow our Facebook page. So the interest in this event is unbelievable. And in addition to that, we've got 12 to 14 merchants who are going to not only open their businesses, but are open their buildings as well to be part of this tour. We have a group called the Alabama Paranormal Investigation Team that you might see on a 60 Minutes or a TV program at night who do these kinds of investigations. They have been busy investigating many of the buildings and getting the history of the building, talking to the owners to get anecdotal stories about the buildings and those kinds of things. So we have broad participation. What we're here tonight to do is to request of the board and the county to allow us to have access to this courthouse for a couple hours sometime during the week, next week, so we could have that investigation team come in and start working on the history write-up and any paranormal activity that might be associated with this building, and to collect that as they're collecting it with all of the buildings downtown. And that would be the first request. And the second request is to allow us access to, as part of the tour. We think we're going to have, you know, we've already had over 125 people sign up for this thing, and it's not even until October. I mentioned the 40,000 hits. We may have 500-700 people or more who participate in this thing, and these are all paying tickets. The ticket's $15, by the way, just so you know how much we're charging. All that money goes back into our chamber and to our beautiful building fund that we're putting up here. So the request would be to allow us to come in and for a couple hours one evening next week, and then secondly to allow us access to the property. And that could come in one of two forms. It could come in just allowing us to walk around the property as the storytellers are telling the stories, or ideally to even come inside the property as many of the other businesses downtown are doing. So, Mr. Chairman, that is our two-pronged request of the board that I submit to you this evening.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
One, as you know, if we open up the courthouse, there's going to have to be a county employee here.
Yes, sir.
You can't just leave the courthouse open without supervision. Is the chamber gonna, reimburse the county for the overtime or whatever we have to pay for the
We
employee?
would certainly be open to doing that, yes, sir.
Okay.
You just let us know how much that is and we'll take care of that.
Okay, 'cause that'd be kind of a hard sell to pay overtime to an employee. for
Completely
ghost
understand.
hunting.
You bet.
Secondly, you know, during the, event, how far in advance are you gonna, I mean, if you're outside on the grounds, that's one thing, we don't really have to have anybody here, but
Yeah.
if, you're gonna have to give us a little notice on the second event if you're gonna have to have the thing open.
You bet. So what we could do is, Mr. Chairman, we could kind of give you a window, of each of these days as to when the actual tour group will be coming through. The challenge we have is we think we're gonna have to add 2 tours every night, and they would be staggered. One would be kind of like a golf game where you start on the 9th hole and the 1st hole, and sort of like that. We may have to do that because of the demand is so great, but we could give you a window, and then we can also address the issue of any cost that the county would have as a result of being open during that time.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments?
I do have some. I do
Yep.
have
Yes,
one.
sir.
You were talking about going through the courthouse. Now, you're not wanting to go through every individual room because some of these rooms are secure.
That's absolutely correct. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
We would
So
not do that.
Probate office, revenue office and stuff like that, you would not have access. You would just have access to the courtroom, maybe the basement and some other things, that's, you know,
The basement
not
sounds good.
secure.
I bet there's some stories, good stories out of the basement. Yes, sir, absolutely correct.
Okay.
We would respect, any areas that are off limits, and, in fact, we won't have a lot of time because we are trying to get 12 to 14 buildings in, and this is about a 2 and 2.5 hour tour. So you can imagine the staging right now, calls for about 10 to 20 minutes is the most. I think we're spending 20 minutes in the chamber building and potentially in the museum. But about 15 minutes is probably about all we're gonna have.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
when you're talking about the basement, keep in mind that we're gonna be starting the annex project, and that basement's probably gonna be off limits, and there's probably gonna be sections of the outside of the building that'll be off limits when the construction fencing goes up, just as a reminder.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You know, we're,
Yes,
about
sir.
to start construction on the building, and that's going, we'll have to just, if you would just, whoever's running this, coordinate it with, Jimmy Woodall's over there. He's our facilities guy.
And I'm the new guy, so Jimmy, okay,
And,
thank you.
so just get with him as far as he can let you know what parts are accessible and not.
Will do.
All right.
Probably, I would think the courtroom would probably be the most interesting. Now, unfortunately for the paranormal crowd, and I don't believe in ghosts and
Yeah.
everything, I watch some of those TV
I'm a skeptic
shows.
too, Mr. Falk. Okay.
But at the same time, by saying that, when we had the old jail connected here,
Yeah.
it was very, very different. I had the pleasure of serving as chairman twice, and one of those times when I served was during a time where I spent a lot of time up here at night.
Yeah.
And there were some very unusual things that happened. I had an administrator complain that she was here at night, and she called me at home,
Oh, wow.
and a light just unexplainable came on in the hallway back here. And so she wanted me to come and walk and see and all those kind of things. And
Yeah.
when I came to walk and see, I heard all kind of things.
Oh, my.
But that was having to do with a connection here that had a hallway that went out to the old jail.
You got
I
it.
was there for a long time.
That's
But-
precisely the kind of story we're
Yeah.
looking for.
yeah, but but right here in this courtroom would be probably access enough, I would think.
You bet,
Because
yeah.
there was a lot of things that happened since, and I think this courthouse was built in 1931. So there'd be a lot of interesting stories, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Next, consider Tallahassee IDB a request to abate ad valorem taxes. Mr. Doherty, are you going to speak to this?
I believe everybody on the commission knows who I am, but I'll go ahead and tell you I'm Richard Doherty. I'm chairman of the Industrial Development Board of the City of Tallahassee. Have been for a long time. It seems like to be one of those jobs. I enjoy it, but it seems to be one of those jobs you can't get rid of once you get it. But it is a volunteer position. We are reaching out to the commission once again for the ability to be able to abate the non-ad valorem tax, non-educational portion of the ad valorem taxes for industry, particularly for industry, for the first 10 years and the second 10 years. You should all have received a copy of the draft resolution and read it. You know, if you'll look at one of the, paragraphs on paragraph 3, we have, we put in the resolution because what we want to do is incorporate a better working relationship with the commission, more open, and it's not spelled out in that paragraph, but it is talks about we want to strengthen of the positive relationship between the IDB and the county, and instead of knowing after the fact, you'll know before the fact, and be involved if the commission would like to appoint a liaison or a commissioner or two. I know you can't have 3 because then it constitutes a quorum, but you know, to maybe meet with me prior to the abatement of, if you were so, willing to give us that abatement authority. Out in the county, we're the only municipality that cannot abate taxes now under the law because we don't levy a ad valorem tax in the city. And we're the ones that does the main industry as far as the county is concerned. We're in a process right now of building a 66,000 square foot facility for one of our existing industries, and that's going to provide 15 more new jobs and help hold on to the 25 that's already there. So, we do a lot, and I know through talks with our industry, there are several more coming down the pipe here in the next year or so, as far as through expansions and that kind of thing. And so, we request that the city give us that designation, to abate, for the ability to abate the tax, which is the non-educational portion of the ad valorem taxes for the first 10 years, and also for the second 10 years, which is that new incentive package that the legislature passed, I think, a couple sessions ago.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I have to agree that IDB Board in Tallahassee has done a remarkable job. I believe that they have been, they played a great role in bringing in a lot of jobs to the county, and for a lot of different reasons, including the work and leadership of Mr. Dorley, whom I do know. But at the same time, to me, I believe it's a simple matter of equity. And if I heard him say right, and I have read through the resolution, I've read also, we've had kind of a study going on about the new law. To me, it doesn't seem fair for us to allow the IDD board or anybody else to abate taxes when their own municipality doesn't have those taxes to abate. Something about that doesn't add up, and it seems like to me that would be kind of doing a favor against perhaps cities that do have ad valorem taxes. Millbrook, for one, I represent Millbrook. They have ad valorem taxes. If they can abate ad valorem taxes, they do have kind of a structure like the town of Tallahassee, but to me it just doesn't seem fair for us to give permission for us to allow them, for them to abate our taxes or taxes that we have that they don't.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask the gentleman something. What issues do the IDB board have just coming before the commission when there's a new industry that wants to come to Tallahassee, and tell us on a case-by-case basis your position on perhaps abating or non-abating, and then we could pull the Revenue Commission in, who he's not here tonight, but what kind of communication issues are there that exist that you don't think you could come to us on a case-by-case basis with these industries?
When the abatement statute was originally thought of, and we did have the authority, and for many, many years, the Industrial Board had the authority to abate the first 10 years at the non-educational portion of ad valorem. Just recently was that overturned. And for the reason that the legislature looked at it, and for the exact reason that, Commissioner Falk is talking about. And, but it does away with it takes an advantage away from the Industrial Board of Tallahassee that does most of the recruitment of industry in the county. And, when I sit down with the president of a company, which a lot of times on the front end is confidential and can't be told to anybody, and, I can't tell him or her or whoever the executive is, well, we can positively abate these taxes because I have to go to another entity to do it. And, you know, or get more people involved. And a lot of times they're hesitant about doing that, and a timetable involved too. If it hits right, it might be a week or two before we can get to the commission with that request. And it sort of takes an arrow out of the quiver of recruitment of industry. I've been doing this for nearly 14 years. And I appreciate the words that Commissioner Falk said about us being so successful. I mean, we brought in over the last 14 years $300 million capital investment into the county. And we have gotten approaching over 2,000 jobs that we brought into the county. And we are highly aggressive when it comes to retention of industry and working with our industry, because we know that 80% of the jobs created is going to be created by existing industries and existing projects. And I have to almost talk them into staying in the county as much as I have to convince an industry to come to the county. And so, you know, so I think to answer your question, Commissioner Smoke, is it takes an advantage away from us that others have that we don't, and in a timetable aspect at times, because a lot of times when they come in, these companies, especially if, you know, if they're not American companies, they don't understand timetables sometimes. They want it now. You know, and see with the industrial board, because I guess the commission can too. I'm not sure how the laws pertain to public entities such as the commission. I can call a board meeting in a matter of 7 days, and it's generally really easy for me to do that. And if something like that had to take place, a lot of times they want to know, well, what are the incentives up front? What can I do? Now I can't tell them I can abate the taxes. One time I could, but now I can't, because it's not within my scope anymore to do that. So it takes a quiver out of my arrow out of my quiver, so to speak, as far as advantage.
And I understand that, and if you'll recall, last year when this initially came up, I'm the one who brought up that AG's opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
That talk about the fact that you all in Tallahassee did not have an ad valorem tax, and they've overturned it. That's fine with me. And what I struggle with here is giving away the authority from the commission to have first-hand knowledge about what's going on and what type of company, what size of company, what type of potential ad valorem money that would bring, because 5% of that would be general fund. Road and bridge would be 2.5 affected, and 1% on the hospitals. So it is it's a difficult decision to make. I understand your position.
I understand.
And I understand your recruiting efforts, and they're impeccable. But I think I have to kind of agree with Commissioner Falk on this one. It's just to make a decision blindsided or just blanket without knowing the size of the companies that may be coming in, the potential amount of ad valorem we would be looking at. I just, for me personally, don't think that would be doing the right thing in the best interest of the people we serve. Because we would essentially be saying, no matter what the size of the company who comes, or what the potential amount of ad valorem that they could bring, we're going to go ahead and make a decision today for a mega company that maybe come in 5-10 years from now. And we don't know where our state of general fund, where we would be even 10 years from now in our general fund. So it is a hard decision to make, even in light of all your great accomplishments with the industrial board over there. And I commend you for those, but it's hard to make a decision like that, not seeing that information up front. But I don't think I understand you saying what your burden would be. Your abatement gives you a little leverage with these people who we're trying to recruit. But the downfall for us is it may be some we would be detrimental to, our general fund.
Would it be more detrimental for them for the general fund, or for them not to come at all?
Well, but if 5%, obviously you would feel that way, but 5% on the general fund potential incoming of ad valorem funds means a lot to me.
Oh, I understand
because we can't levy taxes here. So the money we get, our
right.
gas tax funds, we use them all the time to supplement roads, to keep places safe, bridges safe. So it's just, for me now, I'm only speaking
Understand.
for me, it's just hard to say, write a blanket check that could later on, if the people, you know, could amount to be, you know, a great sum of money.
But if the industry doesn't come or doesn't expand in Tallahassee, then you're not gonna get the 5% or the 2.5% or the 1%.
Well, either way, we wouldn't get it under your scenario,
Well,
because
you
if
would,
they,
you would
if-
get it eventually, you
Well,
just wouldn't
let
get
me-
it for the first 10 years.
let me finish what I'm saying. But beyond the 10 years, what would it be?
Oh, I'm not sure, it depends on the amount and the depreciation and that kind of thing
Okay,
after
so
that.
who would be in control beyond the 10 years?
The law.
The
as far as-
IDB board would still be in a position to abate, right?
No,
Beyond the tax, just so only for 10 years?
Only for 10 years, yes, ma'am.
So we're gonna stick to within that 10 years? Because just like I don't know who's coming in, you don't know either.
Right.
Okay. All I'm saying is, it's just hard for me, to do that in the best interest of our taxpayers and just not know or have a clue up front. I think, I don't know any communication problems I had with you that you couldn't come before the board once you were able to disclose who was coming in and let the commission, whoever they be at that time, make a decision on whether or not it would be in the best interest for the general fund, the hospital, and the, road and bridges, to make that decision at that time.
Well, that's the reason I'm reaching out to the commission about the liaison or whoever, commissioner in our area, whether it be you, I know you touch our area.
Yeah.
And, or in this case, Trey,
Mhm.
that's in our area. You know, whether we could reach out to you two, trying to get up with 5 different ones would be almost impossible, but I could get up with the 2. That's the reason I say the commission, let's work more closely up front and not take the arrow of the arrow out of the quiver, but yet bring you in up front prior to all this happening. Hey, I got this meeting with this company. Would you like to meet with me? Can I meet with you? This is what we have, and this is what we'd like to do. That'd be a lot quicker than having to wait maybe a week or 2 for a meeting. A lot of times a company's looking at another area and could very well make a decision to go somewhere else. When a company looks at an area to come, they don't look for reasons to come, they look for reasons not to. See, they look at it for the reverse. You know, they look at it and say, okay, let me eliminate Elmore County. Let me eliminate Tallahassee. And if they can find some way to eliminate and go somewhere where it works a lot easier and a lot better, then that's where they're going.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, Ms. Moak, may I just interject? Let's, for 16 years that I've been on this commission, I can say that abatement of taxes is only a component. There's been things this commission's been willing to do, cash-wise and otherwise, has nothing to do with ad valorem taxes. So for us to assume that ad valorem taxes is the catalyst to bring companies here, yes, it's a component, but if it was the catalyst, then this commission would not have been asked to do a lot of things this commission's been willing to do over the last 16 years. Does that make any sense?
I think I know where you're coming from, and I thank the commission's doing for what it's done. You have worked with us in the past. And, matter of fact, I don't recall in my 13 to 14 years being on the industrial board that I've ever asked the commission to do something that it hasn't done.
So I think you're making Commissioner Smoke's point for her.
No, sir.
When
The time
you
factor.
can come, and I understand time factors, and I also understand a more significant hurdle that can be crossed is for the city of Tallahassee to simply put on ad valorem tax.
Well, that's not in my scope of
With
power.
the city of well, it's also, if you can come and, you know, I'm not being critical, I'm just saying this makes sense to me. If you can come and ask us to not, actually to give you permission to abate taxes that are under our scope, I don't understand what prevents you from going and speaking to the city of Tallahassee and telling them exactly what you're telling us, but in the reverse. That if they do have an ad valorem tax, then your problem's solved. The fact of the matter is that the city of Tallahassee doesn't, other municipalities within the county does, and so they're not coming like you're coming, because those municipalities do have ad valorem.
Right. Well, I think my statement to that, Commissioner Falk, would be this, and the same to Commissioner Smoke. If the industry coming to look at Elmore County comes to Tallahassee, which, let's face it, if an industry comes to Elmore County, more than likely it's going to come to Tallahassee because we're set up for the industry, and I think that's a case in point proved. But the fact remains, if they don't come because of a component, and one component, Commissioner Falk, can blow it out, then you're not gonna get the revenue from that company regardless.
So you're saying if they come, and I just wanna make sure I'm clear on this.
Okay.
That you're not gonna have time to contact the chairman or somebody, Trey or myself, to tell us what's going on, and that the major factor is the abatement, and you don't think we'd have enough time to try to figure out what we need to do at the time they come in and at the time you notify us?
I'm just saying that, what I say at the time is a lot of times these companies wanna know all the incentives up front to make a decision. They don't wanna meet with a lot of different people. That's the reason the industrial boards were created. They were created for one-stop shopping to make it easy for the industry coming into an area. And meeting with one person, yes, I would have time to pick up the phone and call Trey, or in this fact, Joe. I have him on my cell phone too. I could probably call and get it. But as far as waiting for a commissioners meeting, I could maybe in helping me make a decision for local incentives, because I have to make a decision for local incentives too, not just Avalor and all this, but local incentives. Then to help me put a package together. That's the reason I'm reaching out to the commission to say, on the upscale of this, give us the authority to do it, but we can enter into an aside or understanding with the commission that we're going to either call this liaison the commission has, whether it be like I said a while ago, whether it be Commissioner Smoke, you and Trey, because you touch our areas, or someone else independently that the commission determines to put in that role. And say, okay, here's what we got. Here's the company, here's the capital investment, here's the jobs, this is what we're going to do. Do you think this is going to be a good job? How do you think the commission? Can you go back and sell this to the commission to abate the taxes? And, and feel good about it. Then we can put a package together and get it to that company. A lot of times we don't have a 24-hour turnaround to get a request for information to a company. And it's just like sometimes when a county, whether it be CETA or whether it be the state that contacts us and say, okay, we got a prospect, and we had one here recently where we had a request for information, and they wanted it like by 2 o'clock that afternoon. And then I had another one that hit me up and wanted to know what the abatements would be if this is the capital investment. Well, I couldn't tell them because I said I couldn't abate the taxes, so I can't tell you. And so they go to somewhere like Florida, or they go somewhere like Georgia, they go somewhere Tennessee, Mississippi, or wherever, and where they get these pretty things put together, and then all and behold, a company's gone.
Brother Rick.
Yeah.
I know you've been involved with the IDB board for a long time. The industries that have come there before, have all tax abatements been given to them in the Tallahassee Industrial Park over the years that you've been there?
All of them that's applicable under the law, correct.
Okay. And if y'all remember, and I go back to this, we were given 3 days notice before on a package for industry coming in here before. So I understand what Brother Rick is saying. And that is, this power needs to be given to them, because they're going to have to make the package deal. I know that it gives us the power, but it also gives them the power to make the package deals, to get the industry here. Matter of fact, Tallahassee Industrial Board, Tallahassee Industrial Park, besides the correctional facility, has the largest employer in Elmore County, which is GKN. And we just about lost GKN about 2 years ago. So if I can give him the authority to do that, I'm going to give him the authority to do it.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner. Do you have anything else?
Well, Mr. Chairman, one thing is I'm interested, Commissioner Taylor, you saying that some kind of ability that the IDB board or Tallahassee had to abate taxes saved GKN 2 years ago?
No, I'm not saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying there was a package deal. So that's what I'm saying.
I think we can work into a working relationship with the commission after this, determining what y'all do to say, okay, how will we go about? Would Commissioner Falk be the one I contact? Would it be our commissioner I contact? Would it be two commissioners we talk about? And let's talk about it and have a meeting. I can probably get up with two of you probably that day, and we can make a decision together and say, this is what we can do. And then I can go back to the company and say, okay, we're gonna abate the taxes and do it all right there at the industrial board, and the county's on board. I can go ahead and tell them that.
Well, I want to make a comment. In theory, I don't have a problem with this because, well, my personal feeling doesn't matter in this. The state legislature gave that authority to abate taxes to industrial boards if one factor is in place, that the community that's abating the taxes also has an ad valorem tax. That's my understanding.
That's correct.
And so, here is my question, and this is probably a legal question. The law says that you cannot abate taxes because Tallahassee does not have an ad valorem tax. Is that correct? How can we, as an elected body who is not the legislature, turn around and give you permission to...
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, that's not correct. That's what has been reversed.
Yeah.
What the law now says is that, we can do it by vote of the commission.
Oh, I see.
You're thinking about the original,
Okay,
where because they did not have ad valorem taxes, then they wouldn't have had the authority to do it. Well, it's been reversed to say that even if they don't have, if they're a municipality that doesn't have an ad valorem tax, like Tallahassee, we as the governing body who have the power to abate us can give our power or our authority, we can give it to this board and allow them to do it.
Okay, I'm one step behind on that law.
Yeah, that's the delegation,
Right.
yeah.
But here's my question. Well, there's 2 points I want to make. First, I think the easiest method would be to get Tallahassee to put on an ad valorem tax, because they certainly need the revenue. I mean, the town's always struggling. And that way, this all becomes a moot point. But secondly, I wanted to make a comment before, there was a comment made about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, GKN, there was, this commission stepped up and pledged $500,000
Yes, sir.
to keep GKN here. So it wasn't like we didn't do anything to help
Correct.
retain that industry.
You did that. That's correct.
So, and that was, but I'm still struggling with this issue of giving up the authority to abate taxes. In theory, it's okay. I mean, if Tallahassee had an ad valorem tax, we wouldn't even be having this discussion.
Correct.
So, my thought is the easiest way would be to get Tallahassee to do what they need to do. But secondly, I don't know if tonight I'm ready to make this decision. Because frankly, I'm still struggling with the fact that we are giving the authority to abate our taxes to an entity that's not elected. And we do that anyway if they have an ad valorem, but with the community not having any skin in the game, abating the ad valorem taxes, then I'm still struggling with that concept. So those are my 2 points.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Next, discuss Revenue Office Value Payment Systems, amendment to the service agreement. I don't think Commissioner Macon is here. Ms. McDuffie, do you have something on that?
He is not. He just presented me with an amendment, amended portion of Schedule B for the rates value payment system. The contract was originally signed in September of 13, and it's a year-to-year contract. So he said it was really late in the year to find another company, but he is progressively trying to find another company with better rates. So he is trying to negotiate another contract. So
All right.
it's just an increase in some of the rates. Is the amendment.
This has to do with the fee for the credit card?
Yes. Yes, it does. Credit card, yes.
All right, any questions? Next, consider cancellation of Star Insurance policy, Ms. McDuffie.
Chairman, this is something that the ACCA has been discussing, for some time now, but I'm gonna defer this question to Richie. He is on the, ACCA Liability Self-Insurance Property Fund Program Board.
Mr. Chairman, as, the administrator mentioned, the, association got legislative authority to enter into the property business and add that to our liability coverage. As part of that process, the, ACCA is working with Meadowbrook to transition away from Star Insurance into the self-insurance fund. We had a board meeting last week, and it'll be announced on Tuesday of the conference next week. But basically, the cancellation of the Star policy will transition to an ACCA policy that will keep that same rate for the first year and allow for administrative processes to go on between Meadowbrook and ACCA to evaluate the county's property and then set new rates in 2018. All anticipation is that those rates will continue to stay at the same level or hopefully result in some savings for the county. But this is the necessary step to make everything effective October 1 under the new ACCA liability policy. We're one of many counties that have Star and the ACCA liability. That's the main counties that they're going after on the front end to get transitioned over.
Okay, any questions about this? Next, discuss ACCA Liability Self-Insurance Fund Property Program Participation Agreement. Mr. Byer, I'm sure you have this.
Well, that dovetails with what I just talked about. This new agreement would take effect October 1 and carry you through 2018, I believe. I'm not looking right at it. I can't remember if it's 2018 or the end of 2019.
Okay. All right, next, consider petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property from Stanley Dale Foster. Ms. McDuffie, this has been reviewed and everything is correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, any questions? Next, discuss resolution to widen, level, resurface, and traffic stripe Airport Road from Casada Road, 3.2 miles to Alabama 14.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a project that funding was able to be allocated through the Montgomery MPO recently at the July meetings. This is a replacement project for some money that was set aside for a portion of Greer Road that was inside the MPO limits. Airport Road has been done in 3 different phases. We've also done several improvements to that road around the Casada Elementary School in terms of expanding some turn lanes. So this project would overlay that entire stretch from 14 south to 5 Points and also put surface on top of the extension of the turn lanes and restripe everything. So I think the first section, the northernmost section of that road was done in 04. And then we progressively moved down 08, and then I think the last section was done in 12. So by the time we get all this done, that entire corridor will be improved and in good shape. One reason that road is so important, all the school traffic in the Millbrook School Zone utilize that road, and all their bus traffic utilize that. So it's a very heavily traveled route that's very important to that area.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Any questions or comments? Next, notification of no bid for bid inquiry 2016-27, removal of Reddy Street property. Mr. Byron, you want to comment?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the property at the top of the hill there, we've had multiple discussions about what to do with it. We have tried to go out and get sealed bids for basically salvaging the building materials in that building. We received no bids, so we're giving you notification of that. And our plan, now that we have gotten no responses back, is to first talk with the city about using it as a controlled burn training type exercise. We've been given some indication that they don't do that anymore. If that's the case, once we formally approach them, then we will tear down the building and dispose of it like we've done with other properties south of the courthouse. So.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Any questions or comments? Next, consider attached list of scrap office equipment surplus to be sold through GovDeals or recycled or disposed of.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is just a housekeeping item. Over time, we accumulate old monitors. Some of this came out of the old 911 office, some of their towers that they had for their server units that are being disposed of. multiple pieces, but it's just a annual thing we try to do to keep our storage buildings from getting cluttered up with office supplies and furniture.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Any questions? I did go up there and look at that, and it's scrap. Next, under consent docket, approve proposed plat for Neiman Road Property Group Development and a travel memorandum. Is there any one of these items that any commissioner wants to pull out for separate consideration?
I think we had some people here that wanted to, talk about the Neiman Road Property Group.
Okay,
Pull that out.
certainly. Well, who here wants to talk about that? Yes, ma'am. Let's come over here to this podium and state. Yeah. State your name and where you live.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, let me introduce myself. I'm Elaine Thornton from Tallahassee. I own the property on Neiman Road. I'd like to say that since June, Charles King, I've been working with Charles since January, but I've had to work with him and Kelvin Boone. But since June of 2016, a letter was sent out to the adjacent neighbors, which included my name and phone number. So I kept telling some of the ones like Friendship Waterworks and some of the ones working over there, I said, I wish if there is a complaint, I wish they would call me. I'm old enough and wise enough, I don't step on your property and go knocking on your door uninvited. So at least the letter was sent out in June, had my name, phone number, everything on there. But I've not had any contacts personally to me. I will say this, and I've already told 2 or 3 here tonight, when it's completed, I want them to come see it. It's going to be a very nice mobile home park. I'm putting a lot of money into it. There's actually going to be a total of 9, that'll accommodate 9 homes. It's 8.8 acres. The largest lot is like 0.9 acres. The smallest corner lot is like 0.5 acres. It's going to have an open area that will be manicured. And I can stand here tonight and guarantee you, because of my investment into that tract of land, that I'm going to handpick the tenants back there. I have a very, very tough lease that will be enforced. I've got a young guy, very, very young, a very nice guy that's going to actually, I'm going to provide one of the trailers for him to live in, and he will actually be sort of the property management. He will be my eyes and ears, and at the first sign of any problems, he will get with me and we will address it immediately. But of course, in the lease, lawn maintenance is included in the lease, which means that every yard will be maintained. But anyway, I do intend to make it nice, and I do intend to keep it nice. And like I say, it is an investment that's not going to be cheap. It's not been a cheap investment. So I do intend to handpick the tenants and make sure that they actually respect the property, not only my property, but the surrounding properties. And I can assure you, I was a pharmacist in Tallahassee, had 2 pharmacies, had my own business for 40 years, and I intend to, if there's anything going on with the neighbors, all they've got to do is call and say, Elaine, please, we want to sit down and talk with you, and I would be more than proud to do that.
Okay. Let me ask the question. I know the answer, but just for public sake, does this development meet all the requirements for the county?
Yes, sir, it does. It meets all the requirements of a group development.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Any questions or
Well,
comments?
Ms. Elaine, in your lease, does it require trash pickup for
Yes.
every home?
Yes. Well, in fact, to be honest with you, I'm going to provide the dumpster. It's going to be a big dumpster. It will be picked up weekly by Waste Away. That's what I do with all my commercial property. So I will actually provide the dumpster, and so there'll be no reason for them not to use that dumpster. In my lease, it does address that I will provide the dumpster. It addresses that the lawn maintenance is included in the rent. That I have a young guy that's going to do the lawn maintenance. It's not optional. It's not optional. If they rent one of my mobile homes, I'm going to be putting some very nice double wides back there. So it's not a lot of things are not gonna be optional. It's included in the lease, it's included in the rent, and the dumpster will be my expense.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any, other comments on this plat? Sir, you have a comment? Okay, come on to the podium.
My name's Brian Dunn. My wife and I own the property adjacent to at 580 Neiman Road. There's been rental property back there for the 8 years that we've been there. It's been a constant in and out, constantly. Changes hands, there's always this group in, they leave, another group comes in. You don't know who's back there. You've got traffic back there all times of the day and night. And as far as keeping up property, there's a 40-foot easement from our property to the side of the driveway that they have not maintained in 8 years. The only time it's been cut is when I cut it, and that's to help make our property look better. In fact, you can go there right now. It's not cut now. It hadn't been cut, and I can't tell you how long. This is just something I think that's going to do nothing but drive our property value down. At that point, we don't know who's in and out. You don't know what's going on, and if the rentals that are going on back there in the past show anything towards the present, it's not going to be something that's going to be conducive for the neighbors.
Well, let me just make a comment, because I think I can put all this to bed real quick. The county has no authority to regulate land use. We cannot say you cannot put a trailer park here or you can put a house here. We have no authority to do that. The state does not give us that authority. The only authority we have is through subdivision regulations, which have to be met in order for development to be made. And my question to the engineer was, has this development met the requirements that we have? Because our hands are tied. If the property meets the requirements for the development, then we have nothing to say, no, you can't do it, because that's not our call. We don't have the authority to regulate the land use.
I understand.
So, I understand your concern, but you have to understand our hands are tied. We don't have any authority to say, yes, you can do this or not.
Right. And just another point I would like to make is if Ms. Thornton was that concerned about not getting phone calls, why didn't she come to the neighbors that are there now?
Well, I think that this is an issue that you and your neighbors need to work out with Ms. Thornton. I don't think that this is a place, the commission meeting is not the place to work this problem out.
I totally understand that, but I'm just trying to tell you what...
No, I understand, and I hope you understand that our position is, we don't have the authority to do anything other than to approve the plat or not, and we have to approve the plat if they meet the requirements of the county.
I got you.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, under personnel notifications, notification of Peyton Haney, correction officer, from part-time to full-time to replace T. Blankenship. Those are our personnel notifications for this meeting. Under reports to the commission, Ms. McDuffie, do you have a report tonight?
Just a short one, Chairman. I had the pleasure of going to a regional administrators meeting last week over in Lee County. Administrator Roger Rendelman hosted that, and he mentioned that the administrators should budget a 7% increase for health insurance. We will not know the rates until later on, 1st of September, and that's going to be about $105,000 to the county, and it's going to our rates are going to go from about $5,800 to about $6,400 for single coverage, and from about $9,000 to a little over $10.96 to a little over $10. I apologize. I left that sheet on my desk for those figures, but it's going to be a significant increase that they're asking us to budget for. You know, in the years past, the county has absorbed all the increases for the county's health insurance, for the employee health insurance. And I just wanted to make the commission aware that we're being told to budget for a 7% increase.
Wow. All right. Anything else, Ms. McDuffie? Do you have anything else?
No, not, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. I
Thank you.
apologize.
Mr. Byer, do you have anything tonight?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I only have two items. One is some photos that are coming around from the Learning Tree project. If y'all will recall, a couple of years ago they came asking for a budget appropriation to redo some areas around the building, resurface a parking lot where there are special needs and special students take some of their activities. We were able to complete that through an ADEM grant in lieu of county funds recently. It's a little less than $30,000, but it put a rubberized surface down, and just want to share some pictures with y'all. And I think Ms. Kim a little earlier this afternoon actually sent you a thank you that was sent from the Learning Tree as well. So just good timing in terms of sharing those pictures with you as well. The only other item since our meeting where the Adullam House came and gave a presentation on a proposal for the old Board of Education Timms building, I have had several people contact me inquiring about the ability to turn in a proposal on that building. And I've talked this through with the chairman a little bit, but I would ask that the commission give us the ability to accept proposals on that building through the end of September to give everybody the opportunity to put their best proposal forward from the commission. The Adullam House does not have to do anything else. We have their proposal, but I think that would be in the best interest of the commission and the citizens to be able to see how the county could leverage that property for the best for the city of Wetumpka and for the citizens of the county. So unless y'all have any other suggestion or don't want us to do that, we'd just like to have a feeling from you after the meeting tonight if that's a good direction to go forward with. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have in the way of report. Do y'all have any questions of me?
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Any questions for
Mr. Chairman, if the engineer could answer this, I've had lots of questions and phone calls about the work, and we're very delighted that work is happening on State Road 14-143. At any time is that road going to be closed? Because folks are talking about, you know, different options they would use in the view of the closing. I've told them that it wouldn't be completely closed.
To my knowledge, there won't be any full closure. There may be some temporary lane closures like you would on any other, if it was a resurfacing project. To my knowledge, they're going to keep full traffic on that project. Right now, all they're seeing going on is some utility work. The main part of the project that was let at the end of July is anticipated. In most cases, that starts about 8 weeks after the bids are accepted. So you're probably talking end of September, first part of October. But Commissioner Falk, to my knowledge, all of that's going to be done under traffic. That's part of the reason for the high price tag, is to do it under traffic.
That validates what I've been saying. I just want to make sure I said it right. Also, I did get your emails about the bridge on Ingram Road. Have we been able to put the barrels out on Ingram Road?
Yes, sir. Actually, that bridge is extra wide, kind of like at Cusata Parkway, to accommodate 3 lanes of traffic in the future and bike lanes. And the difference at that bridge is at the very north end you have a slight curve that tails away from the bridge, so there's a chance that until the final stripe is put down that somebody could run off the road. We actually went up there and installed delineators at the end of 3 of the corners. One of them ties to a driveway, so it wasn't conducive to do that. But we have put those in place, and I've actually had follow-up with that citizen on not only that issue, but some of the questions they had about turn lanes and signals and all that, and trying to get them to the right place. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question of the engineer. On the 14-143 project, you know, we talked about that traffic light that's a little off-center from that church, driveway, Mount Zion,
Yes,
Baptist Church. This project will, at some point, get that lined up correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Jones, do you have a report tonight?
Just
A couple of things, just briefly. I'll mention that we've got several training classes that we're hosting over the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow, we've got a hurricane awareness course. It is a regional offering. We'll have several folks at the EOC tomorrow for it. Then we've got a hazardous materials training course with the Wetumpka Water Works and Sewer Board, August 16th, and then an ICS train-the-trainer course the end of the month. We're also working on finishing up our threat and hazards vulnerability assessment for the year. We've got to get that completed and into the state by the middle of the month. And we're also continuing our meetings with our partnering agencies and stakeholder agencies with our MAC group meetings. So we're working on several of those items all at one time, along with our hazard mitigation grant funding. We did get $52,000 allotted. It's a target that we're shooting for, and we are working towards getting the application completed for those projects. So that's where we're at on those. Do y'all have any questions of me at this time?
Any questions for Mr. Jones? Thank you. County Attorney report. Do you have anything, Russ?
I have no report.
Okay. All right. Important calendar dates, Ms. Herb.
This Saturday, August 13th, is the next countywide cleanup at just the Central Elmer Water, Sewer, and Hopeville locations from 9 to 1 or until the trucks are full. Next week, Monday, August 15th through Friday the 19th, is the ACCA annual conference. Our next holiday is going to be September 5th. We'll be closed in observance of Labor Day, and our next commission meeting will be on Monday, September 12th at 5 o'clock, and just before that we'll have a rededication for the 9/11 memorial at 4:30.
All right. Any questions about the calendar? All right, reports to the Commission. Commissioner Taylor, do you have anything tonight?
Yes, I do. First of all, I want to thank all the employees who worked on the Tallahassee Friendship Road project and the Tallahassee School parking lot projects. They did a great job. I appreciate their time and their effort in to getting that done before school goes in on Wednesday. I want to thank Richie and his employees. I also want to thank Richie on the Learning Tree grant. They give them this rubbery mat outside for these, and I really don't know if y'all understand what this is really about. These kids have balance problems, and the Learning Tree is for disabled kids who have these problems, and they weren't able to go outside because they had a fenced-in area that was a parking lot, and this has been helps them on head injuries and stuff like that. So I want to thank Richie on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Faulk, do you have anything?
I do have a comment and to address some of what the administrator said about the 7% projected increase in health insurance. I was reading on my WSFA app that there's going to be a report on where Blue Cross Blue Shield will be increasing health insurance up to 40% on some programs. So even though 7% is a significant number, and certainly I believe that we should be budgeting in the next 5 or 10 years based upon those type of increases, but when you look at the overall scope of things, believe it or not, 7% seems to be a lower number than many people are hearing coming up this next year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Faulk. Commissioner Smoke, do you have anything tonight?
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't.
Thank you, and I do not have a report tonight, so I will adjourn the meeting. We'll get our docket together, and we'll come back for our business meeting. Let's come to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to our business meeting. I'd like to ask Eric Jones to lead us in our invocation and Commissioner Daniel Smoke to lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear God, we come to you tonight, again, just thanking you for the many blessings poured out on our county, dear God. And dear Lord, during this time of year with so many children starting back to school, dear Lord, many have already started, dear God. We just pray for their safety, dear Lord, and pray for the atmosphere in the schools to be conducive to the best learning and educational atmosphere, dear God, for our children, as they're our most precious resource, dear God. We just lift them up to you, lift the teachers, all the staff up to you, dear God, and I just pray for them that they would have the stamina to teach this entire year as you would have them to, dear God. And I pray that the schools of each of the schools, dear Lord. The halls will be, places that your name is shared, your love is shared, dear God, many times, dear God. I just pray that you'll help us each to, be diligent in sharing your word and your love with others as we go about our business, dear God, and help us to slow down and seek you, dear God, in all that we do. Dear Lord, I know that our commissioners work very hard for unity, dear God, and work very hard to establish relationships across all levels of government and all of our partnering agencies, dear God. And I pray for them, dear God. It's a very challenging and yet rewarding effort, dear Lord, and I just I pray that you give them the strength that they need to keep those relationships in place, dear God. Help us not to take our own personal relationships with one another for granted. Help us to lean on each other. Help us to whisper words of encouragement when we need to, dear God. And dear Lord, just help us to be there for those that need us. And again, just help us to be busy about sharing your love with one another. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Let's stand for the pledge. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Taylor?
Present.
Commissioner Falk?
Here.
Chairman Bowen?
Here.
Commissioner Rachel? Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Present.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
I have a motion to approve memorandum of warrants for a period of July 21, 2016 through August 3rd, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Next, a motion to approve or deny Wetumpka Chamber of Commerce and Central Alabama Paranormal Investigators to use the courthouse for investigation and haunted, no individual offices open, and payment of maintenance employee during the use of the courthouse.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Have a motion to deny and second. Any discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
No.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion to approve, deny Revenue Office Value Payment System Amendment to Service Agreement and authorize chairman to execute.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion to approve or deny cancellation of Star Insurance Policy.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion to approve or deny ACC Liability Self-Insurance Fund Program Participation Agreement and authorize chairman to execute.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion to approve or deny petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property from Stanley Dale Foster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion to approve, deny resolution to widen level, resurface, and traffic stripe Airport Road from Casada Road north 3.2 miles to Alabama 14.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Notification of no bid for bid inquiry 2016-27 removal of safe, Ready Street property. That should have been on the consent docket, I apologize. Next, motion to approve attached list of scrap office equipment bless you. Motion to approve, attached list of scrap office equipment surplus to be sold through Gov Deals or recycled.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Motion, approve the consent docket.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
Just for clarification, would you move that notice of no bid to the consent docket out of the regular new business? Next, notification, any further reports, Ms. McDuffie?
No, Chairman, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Byer, do you have anything further?
Mr. Chairman, I don't. I have one question, though. Did the, ACCA liability property, program participation agreement, did that get voted on? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it got skipped. I apologize.
He was asleep.
Long day.
All right. Mr. Byer, do you have anything further? Mr. Jones, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Falk?
Yes.
Chairman Bowen?
Yes,
Commissioner Daniel Smith?
Yes.
we're adjourned.